foul. That was absolutely ridiculous.
The Boston Bruins have won the Stanley Cup.
Up on down. Here comes a 1-2 pitch. Red Sox win the World Series.
I don't know. It's tough. Tom's up there, man. Beantown.
Well, I've been a fan of Boston Celtics for, my whole life pretty much.
First Celtics game was back when I was like 7.
The Boston Celtics became legendary.
What is going on YouTube? It's your boy Justin here on YouTube and from Beantown Takes. We're back again with another video on the channel here, and we're back with a reaction video. Today we reacted to the Celtics just proved it was all worth it. I'm going to disagree with that. Once we get banner 18, that's when it'll be all worth it. We're not content with how the team looks right now. We're going to be content with how the team looks in the postseason. And how we're going to look going towards our chance to win banner 18. And as of right now, they're my pick to win it all. I know I said it last year too. But with the way this team is constructed this year as opposed to last year, it's hard to make the case for somebody else. I mean, obviously, you can make the case for Denver. You can make the case for, really, Oklahoma right now. You can make the case for Minnesota, Milwaukee, Philly. You can never count on Miami either. But the Celtics just proved it was all worth it. This year, the Celtics have been playing phenomenal. So far this year, the Celtics are 17-0 at home. They, right now, have the best record in the NBA. Jason Tatum averaging around 28 points a game. Jaylen Brown is averaging around 23. KP is averaging 20. Our big three, KP, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum, are averaging 20 points or higher per game. Absolutely wild. Then, you got Derek White, who's emerged himself into a nice little role player. Arguably an all-star this year. Some people are making that case. I've been making that case. 16.4 points per game. 4.1 rebounds per game. 5.2 assists per game. I was saying the biggest question after the Marcus Smart trade, who was going to be that guy to fill in Marcus Smart's role as the playmaker? So far, Derek White has filled that role. And on the defensive end, he has filled in for Marcus Smart. Really showing why they were okay with letting Marcus Smart go. 1.1 steals per game and 1.3 blocks per game. Making an early case for Defensive Player of the Year. Then you got Drew Holiday, who's averaging right now 13.1 points per game. Not as much as Milwaukee, but we kind of figured he would take a step back because our team is just fully loaded on the offensive end. Everybody's a bucket. 6.5 rebounds per game, 4.7 assists per game. Almost a steal a game, almost a block a game. Sam Hauser, that was another big question too. What was our bench depth going to look like going into the season? So far, Sam Hauser averaging 8.5 points per game, 3.6 rebounds, 1 assist. He's shooting the lights out from three-point land this year. And then Al Horford, stepping back off the bench, has played great. He's just played phenomenal. 7.7 points per game, 6.8 rebounds a game, 3 assists per game, over a block a game, veteran leadership off the bench from Al, and then Peyton Pritchard, who got himself some minutes this year because Malcolm Brogdon got traded, has been playing pretty decent too. 7.5 points per game, 3.3 rebounds, 3 assists. Celtics look great, man. I say at the trade deadline, they need a little bit more bench depth. I've been saying they should go get Lonnie Walker. I've been hearing that they might be getting another wing. I don't know. But we're going to react to the Celtics just proved it was all worth it. Leave a thumbs up if you guys enjoyed these videos. Shout out if you guys are new, you guys know what to do. Go check out our website. The link's in the description down below. Shout out to Sporting Logically for the video here. I'll leave his channel link in the description down below, as well as the original link to this video here. And without further ado, let's hop straight into it.
I know it's still pretty early in the year, but the Boston Celtics, to me, appear to be the championship favorite. Like, there are other teams certainly in contention. Obviously, you have to pay attention to Denver and to Milwaukee and Philadelphia and all these other teams, but the Boston Celtics look like...
Whoa, hang on. Why is he showing old pictures of this Boston Celtics team? Okay.
The top tier contender, the number one team in the league to me right now in terms of championship status. And it's really interesting how they got there. Now with the Celtics, of course, you can talk about the Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis trades from this offseason, and we're going to talk about those. But it's important to go even further back than that, because arguably the most impactful move that they made was way before that. Arguably, this team is currently constructed with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum on the same team wouldn't have existed without this move. When you go back to the year that the Celtics made the finals, about halfway through the year, not too long before the trade deadline, they were a pretty average team. They had started to win some games in a row, but they were still right
He's talking about Derek White.
around 500. And they made this trade that I honestly didn't understand at the time. And that was Derek White. They brought in Derek White. They gave up their first that year, protected future first, and some contracts. And I was like, okay, they definitely needed another guard, but I'm not really seeing what's happening here with the Derek White situation. And he joins the team. They're the best team in the league by far in the second half of the year. They make the finals. They almost win the title. And if they don't make that Derek White trade, there's no guarantee that the improvements that they had made prior to the trade, the handful of games prior to the trade, would have continued. And at that point in time, when they made the Derek White trade, there were real conversations being had about the possibility of splitting up Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and moving Jaylen Brown to a new team. He was going to need a new contract, and it just felt like that whole era had kind of run its course.
What? Oh wait, is he talking about before that?
Had about a point in time when they made the Derek White trade, there were real conversations. No guarantee that the improvements that they had made prior to the trade, the handful of games prior to the trade, would have continued. And at that point in time, when they made the Derek White trade, there were real conversations being had about the possibility of splitting up Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and moving Jaylen Brown.
I thought he was talking about after
contract, and it just felt like that whole era had kind of run its course. And then, like 4 months later, the Celtics were 2 wins away from winning the title, and that move sets up everything else that happened after it. And of course, in this offseason, they make some changes after a very weird postseason run last year. They move on from Marcus Smart, which feels like this foundational piece to this era of Celtics basketball. They move on from him.
He was the heart and soul of the franchise. He was our longest tenured player. He was the first piece that came to the Boston Celtics after the Pierce and Garnett era. Everyone fell in love with him. And rightfully so. He just lays it all on the court. Literally, he's diving for loose balls. He showed what Celtics basketball is like. It's about hustle. It's about grinding for that last play. Energy that was brought to the Celtics ran from Smart's play. He's a grinder. He's a go-getter. He's a hustler. And that's huge in this league. It's understandable why fans were upset when they let Marcus Smart go. And we've been saying on this channel here, don't trade Marcus Smart unless you're getting something better in return from Marcus Smart. It's clear as day. It's clear as day they really upgraded from that deal.
Bring in Kristaps Porzingis, and then shockingly have an opportunity to bring in Drew Holiday. And this is where I'm at right now with Boston. If they're healthy, which is obviously a big if because both Drew Holiday as well as Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford, a lot of the different pieces on the roster at times have had injury issues throughout their careers, especially recently. If they're healthy, if they're good to go, I don't really see a team that competes with them at full strength. Boston's A+ game. Denver's close. A handful of other teams are close. But if they're making shots and they're playing well and they're healthy, that's the team. And obviously, part of the reason that they're there when they weren't like that last year is because of the moves they made. Bringing in Drew Holiday, bringing in Kristaps Porzingis. And they've both been unbelievably impactful. I mean, Porzingis' health is always going to be the issue and the concern for him, but the size that he provides them in the front court, along with the spacing ability, the defense, all that stuff is a perfect fit for the way the Celtics play, and he has gotten better. Like, one of the issues with KP towards the end of his tenure in New York, when he was in Dallas, was he was basically just a perimeter player. He never punished mismatches. And he got better at that in Washington, but one of the risks that Boston took when they traded for him was if that was going to continue, if his post-up improvement was going to continue. And he's been a really good post player this year, which is important for them because the only real way you can guard Boston is to switch everything because the amount of shots that they get up from the three-point line, and then all of a sudden you're left with Kristaps Porzingis in the middle of the floor against a smaller player, and he's been able to punish that. And then Drew Holiday.
Well, I'm going to add to that. When you don't have a post game, you can't break down the zone defense. That's been one of our biggest issues against Miami, Golden State. Milwaukee, it's hard for them to break down that zone defense because they rely on the shot a lot. That's why it's so important for them to mix up their looks, because when you're getting looks in the paint, mid-range shots, or whatever, when you're spreading it out, you're unpredictable. When you want to rely on the three-point a little bit more, right? Teams switch to zone defense because they're able to guard from the perimeter. They can W or whatever. But then that leaves the middleman in the paint. Sometimes they sag off on them because, as years pass, Robert Williams doesn't have a jump shot post-game whatsoever. So he was a liability. So bringing in Porzingis, who has a great post-game, can easily break down that zone.
Holiday is the upgrade that they never should have been able to make. Like, Drew Holiday is the guy that they never should have been able to bring in this offseason. The
Thanks,
only
Milwaukee.
reason it was possible was because Milwaukee made the relatively surprise move for Damian Lillard. And to me, that's something that could potentially shift the championship chase. Like, Milwaukee traded for Dame thinking it was going to improve their championship chances, and it might have actually helped Boston more than it helped Milwaukee. And basically the point of this video is 35 games through the season. Like, obviously there's still a long way to go, and there's still a lot of things to be decided, but from a competitive standpoint, if Boston's right, if they're healthy, if they play their A+ game, they're the #1 team. And it's kind of close, but it's way further away than, honestly, I thought it would be coming into the year.
Right.
And the thing that really sets them apart is there's a lot of, like, redundancy built into what their, like, A or A- game could look like. Because there are plenty of games where Jaylen Brown just doesn't play well. And he turns the ball over, he takes questionable shots, and they still find a way to win because they're just like, okay, well, today's going to be the Derek White game then. Derek White's going to get to run all the ball screen stuff, and then we're going to score that way. If Derek White's having an off game, or if he's not healthy, then, okay, we're just going to post up Jason Tatum. That's what they did against Detroit when they almost blew that game. They started the second half, and they just posted up Tatum 6 possessions in a row and cut the lead from 18 or 19 or whatever down to 1 in, like, a span of 7 minutes.
They have so many
if they're missing
ways
shots,
they can win on the offensive side of the ball. That's the point I was trying to get across the last time I paused this video. That was the point I was trying to get across. They have so many ways to beat teams' defenses, it's almost unfair.
That's obviously the concern for them, is they're so heavily reliant on the three-point shot that it introduces variance, which is how you end up down 19 against Detroit at halftime. It's also how you end up cutting that lead, so quickly and ending up winning that game. That's going to be the thing that people are going to continue to point to is, one, the coaching. It's still something that a lot of Celtics fans are concerned about in terms of timeout usage and all this stuff, although it's been a little better this year. Not the timeout stuff, but the general coaching stuff. And then the reliance on the three-point shot. Those are the two limiting factors, in addition to injuries, to Boston's championship chances. But I firmly, like, truly believe that if they can kind of check all those boxes, it's their title to win. And the path that they took to get there really is incredible. I mean, it's so easy to see now why the Derek White move made sense and why the Drew Holiday and the Kristaps Porzingis moves made sense. But, like, this is a team that 2.5 years ago was on the verge of collapse. They were in their first year with Ime Udoka as their head coach. There was a lot of stuff being said publicly around the team about how they weren't tough enough and all these different issues that were happening within the team. And I'm not kidding. Like, I mean, I was making videos. I was talking about, Jaylen Brown to the Kings. Could they do this? Could they do that? And weirdly, you could kind of argue that they're almost better at times without Jaylen Brown, and obviously the contract. But that's a whole different conversation. To get to where they are now is nothing short of incredible. And honestly, the #1 thing that kind of separates them and differentiates them is all the other good teams around the league.
What you don't understand, though, too, right, is that they're getting so much shit for their playoff woes or whatever, like falling behind in series that they shouldn't or whatever, right? What you don't get, what people tend to forget, is that Jaylen Brown is only 27 years old, and Jason Tatum's only 19.
Oh, okay. I see what you did there.
I'm just kidding. He's 25, 26. You get the point what I'm saying. Go get your Forever 19 merch. Links in the description down below. But yeah, they're still young. They haven't hit their prime yet. Celtics have Jaylen Brown locked up for his prime years, and they're going to do the same thing with Jason Tatum when he's up for his extension in this upcoming offseason. They're going to do the same thing. They're going to be around here for a while. You just already know that. Man, I used to pray for times like this. So happy. So happy as a Celtics fan.
There's a matchup thing that you could foresee them having issues with, right? Denver, obviously winning the title last year, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt the entire season, but sometimes they struggle with some of these quicker guards in the backcourt, as well as obviously like Jokic isn't some kind of outstanding defender at the 5, so some of the ball screen combinations they can really struggle with, and against a certain matchup where teams shoot the ball really well, that can be a concern for them. Philadelphia is really, really good, but extremely, extremely reliant on Joel Embiid offensively. We saw that in the games in which he didn't play. They played well and scored well in some of them, but other times their offense just completely bogged down. That's a concern for them. Milwaukee, their perimeter defense is amongst the worst in the league right now. I'm not kidding. Like, they don't have perimeter defenders on the roster. They don't. If they were in a playoff series tomorrow against Boston, I don't know who they would put on anybody to guard anybody. I know that they're waiting on some guys to come back and get healthy, but even fully healthy, I just don't see their perimeter defense being on the level that it needs to be. And then there's a handful of other teams around the league. You know, Minnesota's really good, but all of these teams have issues with a certain kind of matchup because of the way their rosters are constructed. But Boston's the only team that I see that can play in all these different ways. They can play bigger, they can play smaller, they can prioritize three-point shooting, they can post you up. The only issue,
it's something they wanted to do for
we
a
talked
while.
about injuries and coaching and all this other stuff. Let's just say it. Let's just hypothetically say it's game 6 of the finals. They're up 3-2. They're at home. They're up 4 with 3 minutes left. Is that going to be a spot where someone like Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown delivers? They've been good at times in the postseason. They've had a ton of postseason success. But at some point, if you're going to win the title, you have to get to that top tier level. Your best player does, I should say. Jokic did it. Giannis did it. Steph, of course, has done it at times, as well as that whole team at times for Golden State. We need to see that from Tatum because as good as their roster is, as good as they are defensively, versatility, three-point shooting, all that stuff, that still is definitely a question mark. But for me, I know this has been kind of like a ranty video, but like this is how I feel about Boston. As I just think about them, and I think they almost feel inevitable as the representative in the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals, and that's a really rare feeling to have about a team, you know, before the halfway point of the season. Things could always change. Other teams could make moves at the deadline to kind of close the gap. Boston obviously could have issues during the season, but based strictly off the Derek White trade, the Drew Holiday trade, the Kristaps Porzingis trade, a relative overhaul of this roster around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I feel extremely confident about Boston's championship chances right now.
Alrighty. Gotta love it. You gotta love it, right? Celtics, best team in the NBA again this season. We'd love to see it. But it's going to come down to the playoffs. That's what we're going to really look at the end of the season. We're not going to look at, oh, they were the best team throughout the regular season. We're not going to look at the in-season tournament whatsoever like Laker fans are doing right now for some weird reason. I don't know why they're doing that. They're flexing on the in-season tournament championship win. Whatever. They can have that. Because at the end of the day, what matters to me more than the in-season tournament championship is the Larry O'Brien Trophy. And I really feel like Banner 18 could be coming this season. Let's see what they do at the trade deadline. The Celtics, they are very active on the market. This trade deadline, that's actually the next video that I'm going to react to next. This video is going to come before that. So leave a thumbs up if you guys enjoy these videos. Subscribe now if you guys are new. You guys know what to do. Go check out our website. The link's in the description down below. Go check out Sporting Logically. I'll leave his link in the description down below, along with the original video. I will leave that in the description down below as well. Thank you guys for watching. It's been your boy Jesse, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later, guys.